now on the pandemic, its impact on the economy, and the impact of both on the presidential race. Our next guest says we're about to see the best economic data in the history of the country, and it's going to play a huge role in the November elections. Joining us is Professor of Economic Policy at Harvard University, Jason Furman. He served 8 years as a top economic advisor with President Obama. Also with us, former Treasury official and Morning Joe economic analyst Steve Rattner.
Well, Jason, let us hope that you are right. I've heard so many people at the beginning of this crisis, this pandemic, talk about a V-shaped recovery. But the further we got into it, they started talking about it being more of a U-shaped recovery, that it's going to take quite some time to get out of the economic crisis that we're in. But you disagree. Tell us why.
Oh, no, I don't think it's going to be a V-shaped recovery. I think it's going to start out fast and then slow quite a lot. Look at OpenTable. OpenTable went down 100%. In the last month, OpenTable reservations have gone up infinity percent. It's the biggest increase ever in OpenTable reservations, and we're still 90% below where we were last year. So a lot of this is the optics. You'll see 1-2 million jobs a month created, but you'll still be 20 million jobs short. So this is not a V-shaped recovery. It will just look like a V and be described like a V by some of the enthusiasts.
Steve, so take us through your charts and also tell us about where you see the economy going, when Americans can hope to start seeing some sort of recovery.
Sure, and I think my charts will give you a sense of the shape of the recovery as well. But I'm mostly focused on jobs because we had a new claims for unemployment number yesterday, and we have a full unemployment set of numbers next week. And because jobs are very connected to how people vote ultimately in the election. So first, let me just do a little bit of level setting for the viewers and try to explain. There are a lot of numbers floating around about people losing their jobs and how many and so forth. And so what we saw yesterday was a 2.1 million people filing for the first time for unemployment insurance. And that was positioned, and it was, in fact, as you can see from the blue line at the bottom, as a decline in the number of people filing, because when this first hit, a huge number of people filed, and so it looks like an improvement, and in that sense it is. But if you look at the top line, which shows the people who are receiving unemployment insurance at the moment, you can see that that has been continuing to go up and is up to almost 25 million people. Now, it did go down slightly in the last week to 21.1, and that may turn out to be good news, but when you compare that to the roughly 2 million people who were receiving unemployment insurance before all this began, it obviously isn't. We still have a very, very long way to go to get back there. So unemployment news modest, and we're going to get numbers next Friday. Now, to the point Jason was talking about, if you look at the next chart and you look at what's going to happen going out into the future, we are going to have an enormous spike to unemployment, whether it goes to 20% or 25%. We can all debate. Economists have different views. We're in uncharted waters here. But it is a spike, and then it starts to come down, and that's what Jason was referring to, that the numbers start to look better in relative terms. But by the time you get to Election Day, as you can see from the red dot just after the spike period, we're still somewhere in the 11-12% unemployment rate probably. People are going to be going to the polls, voting with that number in front of them. Yes, it will have declined from much higher numbers, but it is still vastly higher than the number any president has had to go to the polls and face. And here's the worrisome thing. If you look at the Congressional Budget Office, which is truly an impartial organization, they are looking for it to take years and years and years for unemployment to get back to anything looking like where we were before all this started. In fact, when you get out to you have to get out to 2029 or 2030 to see an unemployment rate even in the low 4%, according to the CBO. Long way to go. We'll see how it unfolds. But we could be looking at unemployment levels that we have not been used to for a very, very long time, Now, lastly, let's look at the impact on the election, the potential impact, and what's happening in the states. So the third bar down, the dark blue bar, shows our current 14.7 unemployment rate. And as I said, that will go up next month and probably at least another month after that. And you can see here the battleground states and how they compare. So Michigan, which had to shut down its factories very early, 22% unemployment. Pennsylvania, 15% at the moment. And then Wisconsin, Florida, Arizona, and North Carolina, slightly less. So these states are all at, above, or around the national average, and therefore are likely to face that kind of a trajectory where when we get to Election Day in these states, we will still be looking at double-digit unemployment. Jason's argument is that that the economy will look better, that things will have looked like they improved. And indeed, the third quarter GDP number, when it comes out, will show potentially, actually, the largest increase in GDP in our history. The problem is that number comes out on on October 29th, just 4 days before we vote on November 3rd. So you're going to have an electorate that's looking at double-digit employment coming down, at the very end, a good GDP number. What does that translate to for voters when they get to the ballot box?
Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's good news. You're referencing a problem for Democrats as they look at this election. Jason, as Steve said, a week from today, next Friday, we will get the May unemployment numbers. Most expectations are that it will climb to somewhere around 20%, not quite depression levels of 25%, but getting awfully close to that. As you look at the large numbers of stimulus packages that have been pushed out in the trillions of dollars and more, $3 trillion more proposed to go out, and Paycheck Protection Program and Security Act and everything else that's gone into this economy as stimulus, can you say that it's having an impact when 41 million or so people have lost their jobs in the last 10 weeks? Is that money getting where it needs to go? Is all that cash working?
I mean, it's having a big impact. Nothing is as big as the pandemic and the impact it's had on this economy. A lot of the reduction in economic activity is people aren't going to go to restaurants, they're not going to travel, and there's no economic policy that's going to handle that. You need testing, you need tracing, you need to have had a better response to all of this from the very beginning. We're going to get at 8:30 this morning the data on a very nerdy series called Personal Income. It's likely to show that disposable personal income in April didn't fall very much, despite huge amounts of unemployment. Why is that? Because people who are unemployed get an extra $600 a week. A family of four got a check for $3,400. If the economy was in a position where people could spend, a lot of those people would have the money. Too many people were left out. That's why it was really important that the House bill expanded nutrition assistance, expanded help for health insurance. All of this comes to an end at the end of July, and you'll have a major problem in the economy then if it's not extended, something that the House bill did. But families, many of them have been protected so far from some of the very worst that would otherwise have happened. It's important we do more and continue it.
Jason Furman and Steve Rattner, thank you both very much for being on the show this morning.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.